Hey, this is Ryan Stegman, artist of Venom, Superior Spider-Man, and Vanish, and you are listening to the Oblivion Bar Podcast.
Welcome to the Oblivion Bar Podcast with your host, Chris Hacker and Aaron Knowles.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 177 of the Oblivion Bar Podcast. I'm Chris Hacker, and I'm the Spider-Man that doesn't show up in any of these movies. And joining me is Prisoner 8046, my co-host and BFF, Aaron Knowles.
Villains aren't born, they are made.
I really wanted to do the intro in a Russian accent, but everyone, I can't do accents. So Aaron is here to fill that void.
You lose, you fool. You American scum.
I want my bird.
I want my board. Tony.
Tony, there's blood in the water.
There's blood. I want my board.
Now, every time I hear a Russian accent, I just think of Red Guardian.
Yeah.
Did you see a Thunderbolts trailer before the movie today? I did. Very excited for it.
It was, for me, it was Brave New World. And
was there a Sony movie in there anywhere? Usually Sony likes to attach their trailers to these movies.
I wasn't paying attention.
Companion, perhaps, something like that. Anyway, everybody, we're talking about Kraven the Hunter. A little backstory on why we watch this movie, why we're reviewing it, is because at the very beginning of the year, everyone, I told Aaron that I kind of wanted to review Madam Web on the show, just for this sheer comedy of it all. I want to just watch that. We all knew it was gonna be bad. Like, we were pretty sure that this was not gonna be a good movie. And Aaron, to his chagrin, he was like, "Well, if we do Madam Web, we have to also talk about Kraven the Hunter." Yes. And I was like, okay, fine. And then both of these movies were created, and now we had to watch them and talk about them on the show. So consider this to be like a companion piece to the Madam Web review from earlier this year.
I'm going to try and do this entire show.
Please don't do that. No.
Okay, sorry.
Right. You can bring it in every once in a while.
Fine.
We love a bit here on the Oblivion Bar, everybody.
We love a bit.
We love a bit. Aaron, quick deviation before we get into Kraven the Hunter and our news and notes. I want to talk quickly about last night. I went to go see Interstellar 5555, the Daft Punk anime from the 90s that we all saw on Toonami, and I own on DVD. It's like one of the 3 DVDs that I own in my entire movie collection. I'm kind of a snob when it comes to movie collecting. I only collect Blu-rays and 4Ks and all the things. But my partner Olivia and I went to go see this movie at AMC. They're showing it for a couple days for the anniversary. I think it's 30-year anniversary for the film.
Had she seen it before?
She had never seen it before.
Is she a Daft Punk fan?
She is a very passive Daft Punk fan. She likes some songs. She's like most people that when you tell them when you tell them that you love Daft Punk, they're like, "I've never heard of Daft Punk." And then you play them 3 songs. They're like, "Oh, I know that song." I'm like, "Yeah, of course you know that song."
Oh, they must have taken that from that Kanye song.
Yeah. Oh, I've heard Stronger by Kanye West.
Yeah.
Daft Punk's in that music video, everybody, and it was their song originally. Point being is that we went to go see this movie last night. Packed crowd, too, almost completely full. It was rumored. I was hoping that this wasn't going to be like a distracting feature. And Aaron, our feelings on AI in a creative setting. We just talked about it on the grid just last night. New episode 145, everybody. AI in the creative world is mostly not great. I would say almost always not great. And it had been rumored that this movie had been upscaled to 4K with AI. And I thought, man, I'm really going to kick myself if I don't go to this remastering, re-release of Interstellar 5555. And we get there, Aaron, and let me tell you, everybody, it was soul crushing how terrible this viewing experience was.
Oh no.
Because of how distracting the AI upscaling was. Like all the bad stuff. Everything that I was worried about was bold and in your face throughout this movie. So it just pretty much reaffirmed how much I hated the idea of AI being in these movies.
Can you give an example?
Yes. So, of course, going back to the 90s, this movie is an anime from the 90s that was created for TVs that were not supposed to ever be shown at a higher capacity of like 720p. Like that was like the highest quality you're ever going to get. So like a lot of the backgrounds were like sort of blurred out or like very, very minimally legible. And when you do the 4K remastered clarity version, all of that becomes very obvious. So like a lot of the signs in the background or like movement by characters that are like not well done, they come in either blurry or the letters come in as like hieroglyphics because they were never legible letters to begin with. So stuff like that. And then like mouth movements and things like it's very obvious, everyone. I think they're going to release this on 4K, like as a physical piece of media.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend spending money on this, but if you somehow get your hands on this 4K restoration, check it out, because this is the problem. And this is our issue with AI being used in like a cinematic creative form.
I hope that they release this. If they do, like when they do put it on 4K, I hope they do what some of them do offer. And that's like offer like the original version.
Yes.
So that you don't have to watch it, because that's one thing, again, like one of my favorites anime is Akira.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate the more recent dubbing that they've done. I don't like to watch things in dubbed.
Sure.
And it's partially because of, I want to say it was like 2005 or something when they redubbed it. And it was like all the names were completely pronounced differently. And I'm just like a traditionalist in that sense. And so, but they do offer like the original dubbing as one of the, options. So I hope that they offer the non-AI'd version of this. That's unfortunate. That hurts me because I know how much you love this. I enjoyed also. I did want to go see it, but kind of glad that I didn't now.
Yeah, don't.
As well as the fact that that your story had me like thinking that there was gonna be like a twist ending, like excitement and
it was all great.
It was
Daft Punk
amazing.
showed up. Daft
It
Punk
was amazing. They did it. Like they fucking did it. It's the first time AI has been amazing. And like, like I was like, okay, but no. This story shit the bed.
Like most sci-fi AI influenced stories, the AI won in the worst way possible. But anyway, everybody, we're beating around the bush here. This week, we're obviously talking about Kraven the Hunter, the 5th and final Sony Spider-Man spinoff, and we'll get into why this is the final one in the Sony Spider-Man universe. Aaron, if you'd be so kind, before we get into our news and notes, and before we get into that review of Kraven the Hunter, will you please tell the folks listening today how they can support the Oblivion Bar podcast?
Well, if you want to support the Oblivion Bar podcast,
I want my bird.
I want my bird. You bring me my bird. Consider checking out our Patreon. For your support, you can gain access to a bonus episode each week called The Grid, a behind-the-scenes look at how we prepare each episode with episode transcripts, which we're kind of reading off now, but not reading. We're just like looking at it. Like this is not scripted, but this is a good behind-the-scenes look at everything, as well as Patreon polls, a whole bunch of other goodies, free shit constantly, free FREE shit all the time. Give it a shot with a 7-day free trial at patreon.com/Oblivion Bar Pod, or check out the link in our show notes.
That's right. All right, let's go ahead and get into our news and notes.
News and notes.
All righty, starting us off here with our first piece of news, we have Chris Evans' version of Steve Rogers, Aaron, will be in Avengers Doomsday, and reportedly his role has been secretly announced. So spoiler alert, if you do not want to know anything about Avengers Doomsday, totally get it. Fortunately, Aaron and I are in the business of knowing these things, which is sort of good and sort of bad at the same time, but spoiler alert. So if you don't want any of this news, I would skip maybe 2 or 3 minutes ahead. That way you don't know what we talk about. But for those that do want to know, the news comes out from a trusted Hollywood insider, Jeff Schneider. Speaking to the Hot Mic podcast, Schneider said, "I've heard who the character is. I was having a conversation today with someone apparently high up at Marvel and Disney, and they mentioned Nomad. Now, Nomad, for everybody who doesn't know, is an alternate version of Steve Rogers. At one point this is in the 1970s version of the comics, 1974 specifically, Captain America 180, which was written by Steve Englehart, illustrated by Sal Buscema. In the storyline, Steve abandons his Captain America moniker after losing faith in the U.S. government and becomes the man serving no country. Now, Aaron, this was rumored to be, leading up to Avengers Endgame a couple years ago, when, you see this version of Chris Evans as Captain America, where he has the star removed from his suit from the end of Captain America Civil War. He basically doesn't have the shield. He has his like Black Panther arm guards. He's got the long hair and the beard. He just basically doesn't look like Steve Rogers anymore.
The coloring on his suit is no longer red and white. It's all dulled out. It almost looks like his stealth suit. But you could see where it's kind of like he took out the red part. So it's just like, it's just all dulled down. So he's obviously trying to very much distance himself from the American flag.
Correct. Yeah. And a lot of people were sort of speculating even back then, this is around 2017, 2018, that Captain America would be adopting the moniker Nomad in the movies. But of course, it's not really touched on. As we know in Infinity War, Captain America is sort of a side character. He's barely even talked about. And then by the time we get to Endgame, he readopts the Captain America moniker after having a sort of come to Jesus moment with Tony there in the front of the Avengers facility. So while this is just a rumor, I've also heard this sort of over the last couple of months when it was sort of confirmed that Chris Evans was coming back. Obviously, he came back in Deadpool and Wolverine as a version of Johnny Storm from the Fantastic Four movies from the 2000s. Very funny moment in that movie. Aaron loves that part.
I love it so much. I just love Chris Evans. We all fucking know that.
Yes. And also, I love how
he's my hall pass.
Same.
When
When
fucking a mirror image.
Whatever. If anything, I'm like trying to look like him. It's almost weird to a certain extent.
If I squint, I would never mind. Sorry, go ahead.
I look like Chris Evans after a couple shots and like a couple beers. Like you look
let's
at me
get drunk, buddy. Let's go for it.
In a dark bar from across the room. You're like, oh, is that maybe, I don't know. Like he doesn't have a Boston accent.
And I'm on the other side and I'm like, don't bother. It's a disappointment.
I will say that like in Deadpool and Wolverine, I love how when he's talking, like when it comes to fruition that this version of Johnny Storm was talking a bunch of shit about what's her name? Cassia.
Cassidy, Nova Cassidy or Cassidy,
whatever.
Cassandra
Nova. There it is. Thank you. Yes. When he's talking shit about Cassandra Nova, he has like a very strong Boston accent, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Anyway, the long and short of it is Chris Evans will be back as a version of Captain America. Aaron, what are your thoughts on this?
So I read something the other day that was saying like, is this just an act of desperation to bring relevance into this new phase of the MCU with Tony Stark and, with Chris Evans coming back, with, Robert
Well, not
Downey
Tony
Jr.
Stark,
and-
Robert Downey Jr. We don't know if it's Tony Stark.
True. Let me rephrase that. Robert Downey Jr. Thank you, motherfucker. And Chris, motherfucker, you lose. Chris Evans. So like, that's the thing is like, is this a cash grab? Is this them kind of being fearful about the future of the MCU? We're going to see. I mean, who knows?
Short answer is yes. But
Short answer is yes. Long answer is it could have been planned. Do we know? We'll never know. Just fucking go with it. Who cares?
I agree. I'm excited to see whatever they come up with. Am I nervous? Of course. For Doomsday and Secret Wars.
We say this every fucking property that comes out. We say this now with the MCU. It's becoming redundant. We are nervous, but we're ready. They have our money.
We've already, our tickets are bought for the MCU through 2026.
Yeah, we got season passes for the rest of our life.
We are both wearing Marvel shirts currently. Like Aaron's actually wearing a Marvel logo.
# not a sponsor. It will be tattooed on me later.
Yes. I'm wearing a Silver Surfer shirt for everybody who wants to know. Aaron, let's get into the other house. The other part of the
House
big
of
two.
Mouse.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the House of Mouse because that's
mouse.
Marvel. A house of rat mouse.
The House of No Mouse.
Mike Flanagan's Clayface movie is getting officially greenlit at DC Studios, which is amazing. Flanagan, who you'll know from Dr. Sleep, The Haunting of Bly Manor, Midnight Mass, only wrote the script for the film. So unfortunately, he won't be directing the film because he's working on his 2026 Exorcist film. But DC Studios is now on the hunt for a director for the property. Flanagan previously shared that he would be really keen to do a standalone Clayface movie as a horror thriller tragedy, which I think is a great kind of like dissection of what a Clayface movie should be. Shout out, go check out. It's the one shot of Clayface. What's that one book? Chris will look it up real quick. They did a couple of them. They did one for the Riddler. They did
Colin
one for
Kelly and Jackson Lansing. Yeah. One Bad Day.
One Bad Day, the Clayface one. Read that. That is a perfect.
All of those are really great, but yes,
yeah,
that
they're
one
amazing. I personally loved Clayface's version, like the most out of all of them. But anyways, Flanagan later shared that he actually pitched the movie to Warner Brothers, saying, "I wanted to talk about Scarecrow, Justice League Dark, and Constantine, and I kind of threw everything up there, and then said, as a child, I used to dress up as Superman because that was my hero. Christopher Reeve's Superman was my hero, and the meeting kind of went nowhere. Warner Brothers didn't really grab onto any of that stuff."
Yeah, this is cool. I like the fact that they're going to be including some villain backstories or maybe even standalone films in the DC universe, because we've never gotten that in the MCU. Of course, we've gotten villains that we really like Loki and You've got Killmonger, of course. Thanos has obviously got some.
What are you talking about? We're about to talk about one today.
I mean, sure. Yeah. Maybe Sony is showing us why we don't need Marvel villain movies, I guess. But
I mean, Venom, come on.
right. Venom. But I will say that since Mike Flanagan's not going to be directing this film, can I throw out a couple names, Aaron, that I'd like to see direct this film?
Sam Raimi.
That would be, sure. Honestly, anything Sam Raimi wants to do, I'm for it because he's done enough good in the world. But like, I feel like Multiverse of Madness has sort of dulled my excitement on the Sam Raimi Spider-Man. Well, yeah, I mean, Sam Raimi did Spider-Man, of course. It was all incredible, and Evil Dead, and he's done a lot of great stuff. But like, Multiverse of Madness kind of, I'm not as excited anymore. I will say Oz Perkins, who did Long Legs, he's doing The Monkey in 2025. Go back to our most anticipated films of 2025 for that, our thought process on that film coming out eventually. I also really liked, Aaron, I went and saw the A24 film Heretic. I don't know if you've heard of that one yet.
I'm getting ready to watch that one because I have heard some amazing things.
It is very good. Hugh Grant, Sophie Thatcher, Chloe East. Topher Grace is in that movie, speaking of Spider-Man. But love that movie. Very, very good. It was an instant 4K buy, but that is directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods. I would love to see them tackle Clayface over in the DC Studios or DC Universe, whatever. So I would honestly, Mike Flanagan involved. I'm bored. Like you said, you said you were excited about it earlier. Same from me. Aaron, let's get into our last bit of news and sort of ties into our main topic here, which is sort of hilarious and ironic at the same time. Sony Pictures pulls the plug on the Spider-Man universe spinoffs after Kraven the Hunter.
You lose. There's blood in the water.
Sony Pictures' upcoming Marvel movie, Kraven the Hunter, will be the last Spider-Man universe spinoff film for the time being. Every other project outside of that involves Spider-Man will be canceled effective immediately. The news comes from The Wrapped, which says the studio is completely focused on Spider-Man. The top talent agent said they developed what they want to develop for now. It's really only about Spider-Man going forward. When talking about the issues of the Spider-Man spinoff films, another insider shared the biggest issue. Aaron, this is going to be very obvious to you, by the way. The biggest issue with the Sony Spider-Man spinoff seems to be the lack of quality control. They went on to say the movies aren't very good. Sometimes the lack of quality meets a movie no one asked for, which was the case with Madam Web, and which was a no-win scenario. It may be time for Sony to start cultivating different IP to launch new franchises. Hey, Sony, no fucking shit. None of us wanted any of this. We didn't want Madam Web. I think for the most part, even though I think Venom has made money overall, no one really wanted anything past the first one. I know I didn't. Aaron, what are your thoughts on Venom?
I'm still going to watch the new one. I'm still going to watch the new one. I haven't yet. I'm still going to watch it
but
because...
you didn't go to the movies to go see it, though.
I didn't. No, not at all.
Right.
But I have to watch it because I need to know why people seem to love what I have heard has been a huge steaming log of shit.
People love it?
I've heard that people... I heard it made fucking money. It was like a
lot of money.
Yeah. So why did it make so much money if it was dog shit?
I think that's a good question, Aaron. I was about to say, if you throw Spider-Man on anything, it's probably going to make at least a little bit of money. But as we've seen from Madam Web, and as we'll talk about here with Kraven the Hunter, which, spoiler alert, it's going to make the least amount of money of any of these movies. That's not always the case, just because it has Spider-Man involved in some way. Where, to be completely honest, Kraven the Hunter barely references Spider-Man in the movie in like a very, very loose way. And Madam Web, you have what's her name, Sydney Sweeney, show up in a Spider-Man suit at one point. That's really about it. And also you have like the bad looking Spider-Man guy, which makes no sense. But point being is, this makes sense. I'm happy about this. I'm glad that they're done with these movies. We'll get into it. I'll tell you what, instead of beating around the bush, let's just get into it. Everybody
let's dive right in. I'm fucking ready.
Let's not put this off any further. That'll do it for our news and notes this week. Let's go ahead and get into our review of Kraven the Hunter.
Main topic.
Alrighty, let's talk about Kraven the Hunter. Spoilers ahead, everybody. If you want to go see Kraven the Hunter, if you're one of the 17 people that have wanted to see Kraven the Hunter and haven't yet, spoilers ahead. So
you mean 16 others besides me?
Yeah. Aaron, initial thoughts on Kraven the Hunter.
If you muted it, I would actually enjoy it.
Okay. Explain.
Honestly, you're going to hate me for saying this. I really liked it, but the dialogue was so shitty.
You know what's funny, Aaron, is that to go into my initial thoughts, I didn't hate it. It's not terrible. That's definitely not as bad as Madam Web.
Yeah.
I think it's better than Venom 2. I think it's better than Venom 3 for sure. I'd say it's probably as good, if not maybe even slightly better than Venom 1.
Mm-hmm.
What thoughts? Are you similar?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Absolutely.
Don't hear what we're not saying, everybody. This is not a good movie. Okay. But it is the best version of this kind of movie.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. That's a great, woo! That is a great way to say it.
Sony, you've done it. Congratulations.
You
peaked.
finally figured it out
Wow.
right before you lose.
You lose. You lose. Oh, yeah. Okay, everybody. Yeah, it's not unwatchable.
Throne.
Like,
it's a throne.
it is, Aaron Taylor Johnson, I like him in this movie. I like him in the role. I don't know if it's just because Aaron Taylor Johnson is one of the 5 hottest people in the world, but I liked him like in this movie, and I liked him in the role, mostly because he's just Aaron Taylor Johnson. He's not Kraven the Hunter, at least. And I probably should admit off the top, everybody, I'm not some Kraven the Hunter aficionado. I don't know everything about Kraven the Hunter. I've read Kraven's Last Hunt, like we all have. Like, honestly, I know about surface level info as everybody else when it comes to Kraven the Hunter. But like, I like the interpretation, and I Russell Crowe just doing his Russian accent.
Yeah.
I was fine with it. He wasn't terrible. Like, I liked him better in this than I did The Mummy, for instance.
Yes. So all I want you to do is I want everybody right now, if you're listening to this, I want you to go to Google, and I want you to Google Kick-Ass, and then I want you to Google Kraven versions of Aaron in this movie. Okay. And I want you to not get a boner, a lady boner, a man boner, or whatever
kind of boner you have.
Whatever kind of boner you get. I want you to try not to, because look, the glow up on this fucking guy.
Telling you, go back again, like Aaron just said, go back to Kick-Ass. Look at what a fucking dweeb Aaron Taylor Johnson is in that movie.
Yeah.
And then go to this movie. Did you know that his abs are real? None of that's CGI.
Yes, yes, you can wash your laundry on those things.
All right, Aaron, everybody, we should probably pre-warn everyone. This is not going to be a crazy in-depth review. We're not going to get into the intellectual complexities of Kraven and the Rhino and the Chameleon in this review. I think for the most part, when it comes to movies like this, Aaron and I don't like to lay into them. Obviously, as we said at the beginning, this is not an incredible film. However, I do want to highlight some interesting parts of this. We're not going to shy away from the bad parts, of course, but yes. I think for the most part, there are like interesting tidbits. And I think that, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, Aaron. I think that there are like small nuggets of cool things in this that could have been good.
I'm just going to tell you again, other than some of the shittiest dialogue that I have ever heard.
Audio dubbing.
And dubbing. Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Shitty dubbing, shitty dialogue. Other than that, and like some just choices that were made with what the characters are doing in some of the scenes. Mm-hmm. Other than that, honestly, I really fucking like the movie. I really like the fucking movie.
Let's be careful. Let's not say really liked. Okay.
No, I did. I did. I'm not. That's why I'm telling you. I was going to surprise. I'm trying not to build. I know I'm getting really excited. I'm probably talking way too loud right now.
That's okay.
But like,
these are exciting times, Aaron.
These are exciting times. I did not want to like just jump into it because I wanted to kind of get the back and forth going, the banter here. Sure. But I really had a good time with this movie. When he is doing like his Kraven movements, like he's doing like the animalistic movements.
When he's doing
running across roof, yeah, the Kravenness. He's running across rooftops. He's climbing up walls. He's bending shit. I'm just like, holy shit! Like they did a great job with that. It didn't feel stupid. It didn't feel over exaggerated. It didn't feel like shitty CGI. It was really cool. Like I would love to see more of this in tons of other like situations.
Yeah, I agree. I think when Kraven's doing a hunt. Love that. When Rhino is doing a scheme and looking for a partner, I'm kind of on board for that. Like, I know we don't get.
Will you be my partner?
Will you be my? I'm looking for a partner. Like when all that's happening, I'm into it. And we'll get to the cast here in just a moment, the director and all that. But Aaron, I'd love for you to give the folks at home the summary to this film, doing a Russian accent as well. I know you want to, so.
Kraven's complex relationship with his ruthless father, Nikolai Kravinoff, starts him down the path of vengeance with brutal consequences, motivating him to become not only the greatest hunter in the world, but also one of its most feared. Is that good?
That was pretty good. I like that.
Thank you. Yeah. So here's I just want to throw this out there.
Okay.
The entire the entire movie.
Yeah.
They're trying to figure out who the hunter is. Nobody's heard the name Kraven. Okay.
Right.
Nobody's heard the name Kraven. How fucking hard is it to figure it out that his name's fucking Kravinoff? The entire time it kept bothering me. Like, how do you fucking not figure this out? Kravinoff. Kravinoff.
That's it. Einhorn is Finkel. Finkel is Einhorn. Einhorn is a man. Oh my God! Einhorn is a man.
Okay.
Little Ace Ventura for you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Okay, so in the beginning of this movie, basically we get an intro of Kraven being thrown into prison to essentially he's like was caught on purpose to kill someone within prison, and then we get a time jump backwards about 18 years where we sort of get the actual backstory of Kraven and his brother, and then and it's funny. One of the most jarring parts of this movie, I think, is how once we get back to present day, we just go right back to the moment of Kraven in the plane leaving the prison.
Yeah.
Like we just time jumped backwards for 20 years for about 20 minutes. And when they would come right back to present day. What did you find that jarring at all? Or were you just along for the ride?
I was just along for the ride, but the thing that fucking bothered me about the time jumps and stuff is, and like, especially whenever they're traveling in this movie, the thing that's jarring to me is that they never are like specific about where they are. They're just like Northern Russia, Eastern Russia. Like they don't give like a place like North America. Fucking, it's like they don't fucking give you a place of like where they're at. It's like, we understand like Eastern Russia. It's probably like, I don't know, Croatia. I don't know.
It's cold, I guess.
It's cold, but like it's like Serbia. Like they say like Serbia, but they're like, you know, it's just far east Russia.
Okay, this movie, I want to go back on what you said earlier about the CGI. I tend to disagree a little bit. I think the CGI is pretty horrific in this movie, but I don't know if I necessarily blame anyone but the budget and Sony specifically. But also, like, this movie could have used another $100 million, and I think it would have looked okay. Now, part of the reason why I bring all that up is because, like you said, they go to like Ghana at one point at the beginning of the film where, Kraven and his family, his brother and his father are out hunting. He gets that lion blood in him, but like it's people acting like they're in the jungle when they're not, or they're in the Sahara and they're not.
Nobody's even fucking sweating.
It's so clear. Yes, it's so clear as day that they're on a green screen set.
Yeah.
And it's not even like they're trying to not act like that's what it is. Everyone's really clean. Like you said, no one's sweating. No one's like dirty. There's no wind even. Like it's just green screen. And it's like that really terrible effect where like the background is blurry. You know what I'm talking about? And like the person in the foreground is very, very clear, almost like crystal clear. It's so not in camera and so obvious that this is like a set.
This like initial scene where we meet Calypso and her grandmother.
Great name, by the way.
First off, okay, here's no.
You're going to be somebody if your name's Calypso.
The fucking thing. No parent, I don't give a fuck how rich or how whatever hoity-toity you are. No parent will call their kid the entire full name all the time. Like, it's going to be Callie. It's going to be like Poe. Lipsy. You know?
Lipsy.
Something like, C, Callie. Something like, nobody's going to be like, Calypso. You know, it's like, it's so, to me, that like, there's, again, and then the dubbing between the girl and her grandma, like Calypso and her grandma.
Yes.
And then the whole fucking thing with like, first off, nobody with a tarot card deck is just going to give one card away and then carry that same deck around for decades because now you're missing a fucking card.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Just
I'm
ruined
just
your
going to
deck.
go into like, God damn it. Like there's some small glaring things, but again, other than the stupid shit that's like glaring, I thought it was a pretty cool movie. But let's continue.
Is it like are we talking about like a difference of expectations? Like we go into these movies and we think, for the most part, we're like wanting to go to be entertained, and we have like certain standards that we go into and go, if this movie, it doesn't do this and this and this wrong, right, then I'm going to be disappointed. But I think because you and I and everyone that probably goes to see this movie over the next 2 or 3 weeks is expecting it to be terrible, maybe the fact that they do some things okay, we're like, oh, wow, I actually had a decent time with that movie, right? I think that's really what we're talking about, to be honest. Like, none of this is good. None of this is good, people. But like the fact that some of it's not outright terrible makes it like enjoyable. So
I just think, you know, again, I went pretty much opening night. and I think there was maybe like 10 people in the theater with me. So for me, it's like I didn't expect. Especially after Madam Web, I didn't go into this thinking at all that this was going to be quality. But I was pleasantly surprised with how good the stuff was that I did enjoy.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, Aaron, actually, this is not the first time that we've tried to get Kraven in this universe. Not only this universe, but also kind of the MCU as well. So here are some of the attempts that they had to bring Kraven the Hunter onto the big screen. We have Sam Raimi, speaking of, he wanted to bring him, integrate him into the Spider-Man 4 movie that ended up not being made. We also have Kraven's spear appeared in the Amazing Spider-Man number 2. Now, everyone remember at the end of that movie, it's basically just a setup for the eventual Sinister Six film that they've been wanting to make since like 2012. Sony, of course, never got there. So you lose, Sony. We've got in the MCU, Ryan Coogler actually wanted to include him in Black Panther, the first one. Taking inspiration from Christopher Priest's excellent Black Panther run from back in the day. But they couldn't secure the rights from Sony. Sony didn't want to give him up. Probably because Sony wanted to include Kraven in their movies. And then John Watts wanted to include Kraven as a backup villain in Spider-Man No Way Home. But of course, again, rights couldn't be secured, and also the multiverse. So
yeah, fuck Sony.
Sony is just always doing the worst, you know, just being the biggest villain of them all. They're their own Sinister Six, and it's the 6 executives that make all these decisions.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the 6th, as we said earlier, the 6th Sony Spider-Man film, or otherwise known as the SSU. Have you been calling it the SSU the entire time, Aaron?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's called the shitty Spider-Man movies.
Yeah. The SSM.
I guess it is the SSU.
The shitty Spider-Man universe.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Kraven the Hunter was presumably inspired. The character of Kraven the Hunter was inspired by Richard Connell's 1924 short story, The Most Dangerous Game, about a Russian aristocrat who hunts people for challenge. This is in the debut of the Amazing Spider-Man number 15 from August of 1964, of course, written by Stan the Man Lee and illustrated by Steve Ditko. Kraven refers to Spider-Man as the most dangerous game. Now, that's kind of like the overarching conflict between Kraven and Spider-Man in the comics, is that Spider-Man is just a game to Kraven.
Yeah.
They have no other backstory or reason to hate each other. It's just that Spider-Man doesn't want to get killed, and Kraven wants to hunt him because no one's ever been able to kill Spider-Man.
I want a I want a Kraven versus Predator comic.
That would be cool. I think that Frank would just murder Kraven. I think he would just mow him down with a
not Punisher.
Oh,
a Predator. Like
sorry. I don't know why I heard Punisher. Yeah. Sorry, Predator. Got it. Well, that can't happen now, Aaron.
I think there was one where it was like the Punisher was going after Spider-Man, and I think it might have been the cartoon, like Kraven was involved in it or something.
Sure.
There's something going on with it.
Very possible. Yeah. I mean, I will say that, like, in the comics, and I hate saying this, everybody, just, I don't like to be the well actually guy on the show, but apparently I'm just wearing that hat going forward. But like, Kraven in the comics is unpowered. He is a normal man. He is just a very, very talented hunter. And I like that idea. I like that he's just a normal guy that is just obsessed with the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
I get why they made Aaron Taylor Johnson's character powered, to give him a shot against the Rhino and to make him really cool outside of just being super hot and ripped. Like, he also has powers. Isn't that cool? Right. But like, I kind of like
issues.
It's got some daddy issues, as we all do. I get it. Or, but like, I just kind of wish that they would have left him depowered, because it makes him more interesting, because he has to sort of rely on his wit, as like a Punisher has to in the comics and in the shows as well. Like, he has to rely on his wit to a certain extent. So the original release date for this film was January 13th, 2023, but it was delayed 2 years. The first delay was in October 6th, 2023, following a year-long delay for whatever reason that really isn't disclosed. And then August 30th this year from the strikes, the SAG-AFTRA strikes. So, and then of course it was delayed until December 13th, which is where we got it. So Aaron, let's talk about the director, who I actually think is a pretty talented filmmaker.
Yeah. You got J.C. Chandor, who, 2011, Margin Call, 2013, All Is Lost, 2014, A Most Violent Year, and then 2019, Triple Frontier, which I can honestly, I haven't watched any of those, so I don't really have too much of experience with his directing style. But Chandor was nominated for Best Original Screenplay for Margin Call.
Yeah. I've actually seen A Most Violent Year. It is one of my favorite sort of dark horse A24 films. It's one of the earlier ones. Came out again in 2014. So this is the early days of A24. It stars Oscar Isaac and Jessica Chastain. Really good movie. It's basically about Oscar Isaacs as part. It's kind of like a modern day Godfather, where Oscar Isaacs is part of this crime family, and he has to sort of grip with, does he take over the family business or does he sort of go a different way? So really, really good. I have not seen any of the other films, but as you said,
I take that back. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have seen Triple Frontier, which is it was Ben Affleck, Oscar Isaac, Charlie Hunnam, Garrett Hedlund, and Pedro Pascal as they're a group of Delta Force, like special forces operators, who reunite. They do a heist because one of them is basically works with a security agency. There's this human trafficker, drug like cartel boss that's like in this house, this mansion in the jungle. And so one of them's like, hey, I'm going to hire all you guys. We're going to go and basically kick ass and take all this money because these are all like, veterans. like Ben Affleck's character is like an ex. So he's like an ex special forces operator who's now he's like a realtor.
Yeah.
Who can't sell shit. So like they all want money, and it's the movie's awesome. If you get a chance, the movie's fucking amazing.
what a cast too. Like you said, Ben Affleck, Oscar Isaac, Charlie Hunnam, Garrett Hedlund of Tron Legacy fame, and Pedro Pascal, of course. So pretty cool stuff. Aaron, budget is $130 million. That makes sense. Like we've always said, standard superhero movies usually around 200 million. That's like what Disney usually puts into their superhero movies. That's usually what Sony.
It shows in the aircraft as well.
Well, as we said, this movie if this would have gotten another $70 million, it probably would have looked pretty good. Yeah. But we were close.
Kraven flies around in the smallest airplane I've ever seen.
Yeah. We also don't get a look. I had a feeling that like at some point in the development of this movie, that pilot was someone important. And they just took it out for budget purposes.
The voice was like, the voice is somebody, that female, because that person that was sitting there wasn't a female.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So who was on the line?
Whose line is it anyway? I don't know. Aaron, talk about the box office here.
Kraven the Hunter is projected to gross $13 to $15 million domestically.
Not great, Bob.
In its opening weekend, even at the peak of $15 million, that would still make it the lowest opening weekend for any of the Sony Spider-Man Universe movies. Madam Web, in comparison, made $15.3 million during its opening 3-day weekend earlier this year, while 2022's Morbius managed to pull in $39 million. It's Morbin time.
How have we gone this far into the review and not said it's Kraven time? Missed opportunities, Aaron.
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
You lose.
2 hours and 7 minutes.
Feels like it.
It feels like it, honestly. I think this movie could have shaved off about 20 minutes and I would have been totally fine with it. Because why do we need to give him the jacket, right? Why do we need to show that his brother is the chameleon? Although I will say the chameleon actually looks pretty comic accurate.
Yeah. Why do we need to go to the law firm of his friend, Calypso?
Yeah, not a love interest. They don't even really suggest that they're lovers at any point, which is fine. But like, what is her point in the movie? She is literally just I don't know what the term is, but she is like an ends to a means. Like she just is there to keep the plot kind of going forward.
She's an egg MacGuffin.
There you go. Aaron, did you know, well, we'll get into the cast. This is probably a good transition into the cast, but did you know that the Chameleon is actually Spider-Man's first villain ever?
I did not know that.
Yeah. He was the very first one, Spider-Man #1, actually, from March of 1963, and Amazing Spider-Man #1. So a little factoid for you there. Aaron, speaking of, let's get into the cast.
All right. Aaron Taylor Johnson as Sergei Kravinoff, or Kraven the Hunter. Once you hear that name, you're dead. Once you get on this list, you'll never get off. Ariana DeBose. Who is she? I know that. I feel like I know what? I know who she is.
You've seen her. Yeah, she's in a lot of musicals. That's probably why she's won multiple Golden Globes, Academy Awards. She was in Hamilton. She was in West Side Story. Yeah.
Yep. As Calypso Azili. Fred Heschinger as Dmitry Smeldyakov, the chameleon. I don't know why. Oh, yes, because he's a bastard child of Russell Crowe's character, which I'll talk about in a second.
Yep.
God damn it.
He's a little baby boy.
Little baby boy.
Also, the second time we've seen him in 2 weeks here on the show, because he was in Gladiator 2.
one of the evil. He was an evil redhead. Alessandro Nivola as Alexei Sitsevich, the Rhino. Christopher Abbott as the Foreigner, which I'm excited to talk about him. And then Russell Crowe as Nikolai Kravinoff.
Yes.
I am Nikolai Kravinoff. I am husband to a murdered wife.
I will have my vengeance in this life or the next.
I will have my hunt in this world or the next. Interesting enough, Aaron Taylor Johnson was considered to play Spider-Man in The Amazing Spider-Man in 2012 before Andrew Garfield won the role.
He was too busy making kick-ass movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Sony executive Stanford Packnick had to Google Aaron Taylor Johnson's name before casting him in the role.
Yeah, it was a...
I included that, Aaron, for a very specific reason. These Sony executives are so fucking above themselves. They have no idea what's going on in their own world. Like Aaron Taylor Johnson's one of the biggest. He's going to be fucking the next James Bond probably, and they have no idea who he is. Are you kidding me? Anyway, Aaron, keep going here.
Alessandro Nivola's Alexei Sitsevich, aka the Rhino. Will you be my partner? Mentions.
I'm looking for a partner.
I feel like he's they should have gotten Borat, Sacha Baron Cohen. Like, oh, will you be my partner?
Yeah.
The Rhino mentions he spoke with a scientist in New York about a cure for his disease. The scientist he mentions is Miles Warren, aka the Jackal. Now, Chris, you know a little bit more about the Jackal. What I was kind of expecting him to say was that he was going to talk about a Dr. Connors.
Yeah, I did as well. I thought that's where we were going, but nope, that's not what happened. Unfortunately, we got a mention of the Jackal. The only reason why I wanted to bring up the Jackal was for two main reasons. Number one, he is sort of the spearhead of one of the most, what's the word to describe this one, Aaron? It's not hated anymore. I think for a long time it was hated, but the Clone Saga from the early 90s, which was, of course, what created Ben Reilly. We also get Kane Parker in this as one of the other clones of Peter Parker. But the main reason why I wanted to bring him up is because his weird relationship with Gwen Stacy. This scientist was I think he was like I want to say an educator to Peter and Gwen at Empire State University. But the Jackal became like obsessed with Gwen Stacy, which is super inappropriate to fall in love with one of your students, but he was. And that sort of started the rivalry between Peter and this Jackal character, this what was it, Miles Warren. So and also it says here, I was looking this up. Apparently he has some kind of partnership with Calypso in the comic. So I wonder if had this series kept on, we would have seen a change in Ariana DeBose's character Calypso at some point over to help out this eventual Jackal in the movies. So that was the main reason why I wanted to bring it up. I thought it was interesting. When I heard Miles Warren in the movie, I was like, who is that? And it was the Jackal. And yeah. So this is the 12th R-rated movie in the Marvel Universe, or a Marvel film. I won't say just in the Marvel Universe, but The Punisher, this is the
Dolph Lundgren.
Thank you. Dolph Lundgren Punisher film. Blade, of course. Blade 2, another Punisher film. I want to see a PG-13 Punisher film. I want to see how that goes. From 2004, Blade Trinity, of course, Man-Thing in 2005. There was a Man-Thing movie? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Really? Is that TV movie? Or is that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Punisher Warzone, of course. You've got Deadpool, of course. Logan, Deadpool 2, and Deadpool Wolverine. So what have we missed here with this movie? Is there anything? What do we say about the end of the Sony Spider-Man universe? What is there to be said?
Thank God.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy. I'm happy that the Sony universe is dead.
But it's like, not it's the death of the villains of this. It's the death of the spinoffs. It's not the death of the Sony Spider-Man universe, period, because they're still going to focus on shitty Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
Do
you think that they like set up Noel in Venom 3 to eventually reboot this universe and have him be like the big bad in the next universe? That's sort of my thought, is that like, why would you introduce a crazy huge villain? Sorry, guys. I almost tried to rationalize what Sony was thinking with these movies and these properties. Sorry, it was my mistake. I shouldn't have thought rationally about what they're thinking on how to plan these movies out. But like, why would you introduce Noel and then not use him somehow? And I think, like we just talked about, I think they're going to use him later in when they eventually reboot this universe and bring on a new Venom, a new Kraven the Hunter. They're not done. They're not going to not make these movies.
All I'm going to say is that, like, again, I did like this movie. I really liked it. I did.
Mm-hmm.
But I ended up not feeling great about it again because of, as we said earlier, the dubbing and the bad dialogue.
Mhm.
There were so many bad choices. There were so many stupid choices. Like one of the choices, is that every time Kraven rode the plane, he had to wait for the fucking bay doors in the back to open up to leave. There's doors on the side. Just use the door. You don't have to cinematically leave a plane every single time because it just takes too much time. Why did he have to wait to land in an airfield? Couldn't they just jump, like fly over where he was living? He could just jump out and like kind of do like a Captain America, like landing in the trees or something. Like,
was he wearing a parachute? No, he wasn't.
Yeah, no. But like there was like so many choices that were like silly, but there were some really fun choices. One thing I really liked is there's the scene where he basically pulls a Chris Evans and he's like holding down this helicopter after they try and they're kidnapping his brother.
Yeah.
I thought that scene was really good. The chase scene, him running, like again, very, very, it's like somebody watched the MCU and was like, fuck, we can do that. And they were like,
right?
They took every scene that Chris Evans did as Captain America and then applied it to Chris Evans, like running through the city, like slamming into shit. Like, but it was done well. Again, I enjoyed watching all the action in this movie. I will say I was a little bit disappointed with the fight between the Rhino and
I was going to ask
Kraven.
you, what did you think of the Rhino? What did you think of his look? Like, did you like the characterization?
I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I thought it was really neat that they, like how they kind of explained, like what they did to him and then like the pain and like his feedback, like his character, the Rhino, Alexi's character was really interesting. So like
he had a colostomy bag from keeping him from being the Rhino.
He had this funny little backpack, but like I thought it was also kind of cool because, to be honest, this story very much reminded me of Iron Man 3. Because the villain was a villain that you see at the very beginning, who is obviously a little bit weaker, a little bit nerdier, has a bad haircut, and then later comes back with powers, upgraded himself, but now he can't really control it that great, and it eventually becomes the death of him.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I thought there was like, this movie was kind of like an amalgamation of a lot of projects that when they wrote this and when they directed it was like, oh, I fucking love this part of the MCU. I love this part of the MCU. Let me smash it into my movie and maybe I can make it better, which it did. I think that's where the successes were. But at the end of the day, it was still a fucking heaping garbage bag of bad dialogue.
That you really liked.
That I looking past the stuff that I didn't like, I did like it. Like one of the stupidest things was this guy lives out in the middle of the fucking woods. Let me ask you this. Lives out in the middle of the fucking woods.
Yep.
Has like fences around his land. Poachers are breaking in. Nobody knows where his house is. So tell me why you have a Batman statue that opens up to show all your weapons.
Right. Who are you hiding this? Who are you hiding this
shit from? Huh?
Right.
There's certain things like the Foreigner. The Foreigner's power.
You know who I thought that was originally, by the way? Was Mr. Negative. I thought that's who that was eventually going to be. And Christopher Abbott was crazily underused in this movie. Like,
yes.
Christopher Abbott's we're going to see him a lot in 2025, both in The Wolfman, and he has another movie with Barry Keoghan that we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
But like, he's a great actor. I like him in a lot of things.
I was curious about his character because I've never heard of this, and like 1, 2, 3. It's like he had to count like every fucking time he's about to use his powers. Like it's like calling out your moves every time you're fighting somebody. Like
I don't know. Like I honestly didn't know anything. I know everyone. I know nothing about the Foreigner outside of the fact that in one story I know he's like married to Silver Sable.
Yeah,
that's it. That's all I know about him.
In the comic, he's able to do it for 10 seconds.
So he can like. What is it like? He can like distort your view.
He basically, it's almost like okay. So there was a movie that came out not too long ago. I think it was a Ben Affleck film called Hypnotic. Okay. It's basically that he's able, like something in his eyes. He has the ability to basically hypnotize and put people in a trance. When his, I don't really know. I don't know the basis of how his powers work or his technique, but he's able to hypnotize people when he takes his glasses off, and then he can basically move while they're in this trance. So it makes it seem like he has either super speed or he's able to like teleport. Now, in my opinion, if you are like a powered person and you're able to like move with like animal-like reflexes, you'd think you'd be able to see this guy moving.
Right.
So like, there's certain things that just didn't line up for me. But again, I loved so many choices in this movie though. Like when he was going to rescue his brother and he's like moving through the house and not killing everybody, like kind of moving behind them. That was a really cool stealth. Like they did some really cool choices with his movements and him not necessarily killing people.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but you kind of set me up for what is ultimately my biggest complaint with this universe, which is that Sony realized pretty quickly that if they're going to make money off of these characters that's not Spider-Man, they have to make these characters heroes. But none of these characters work as heroes because they're villains. And you're taking away what is essentially their main purpose in these movies and in these stories and as characters, not only in the comics, but in these films, is that they're supposed to be a foe towards Spider-Man. And if Venom is a good guy and Madam Web is a good guy and Kraven is a good guy and Morbius is a good guy, where's the conflict? Why are they fighting?
Who's the bad guy?
Right.
Who's the bad guy? Exactly.
So that's all. And like, I don't mind when I see Aaron Taylor Johnson, I'm like, yeah, of course I want to root for him because he's Aaron Taylor Johnson. It's like when I see Chris Evans playing, to sort of compare those two again, because they're both really hot dudes. But like, when I see those two in a movie, I ultimately want to root for them because I like them as actors. But because like Chris Evans played a bad guy in that movie with the Russo brothers and Ryan Gosling, right? What was it called?
The Gray Man.
The Gray Man. Thank you. Obviously,
shot in the ass, Suzanne.
I got shot in the ass, Suzanne. Obviously, Knives Out. He's a bad guy in that. Like, anytime he's a bad guy, I'm like, I still like him because he's Chris Evans.
Yeah.
Same with Aaron Taylor Johnson. But the thing is, like, he should not be a good guy.
Yeah. The only thing that I could see them doing if they hadn't done the dumb shit with like Morbius and, some of the other ones, I think that the cool thing would have been like if they would have just like they did it from his perspective where, again, he has no problem killing humans, especially when they're mean to animals, which is fine. But from anybody else's perspective, that's a bad person. And that's another thing. It's like one line in this movie was like, I'm a lawyer. Like you're a murderer. I'm a lawyer. And then like, she's okay with it. Like she's okay helping him.
She's like, oh wait, you're hot though. So what are we doing again? What's the plan?
I saved your life. It must've been for a reason. Like,
oh yeah. Okay. I think we're near the end. I will say last thing that I'll say is that both in this movie and in Gladiator 2, I don't get why Fred Hettinger is in these movies. I don't like him in any of these movies.
I don't like him either.
It's something about his face. And I mean that in like the most respectful way possible. Yeah. I don't like
a very punchable face.
It's got a really punchable face. He only got punched like once or twice. But like I will say at the very end, when they have to make them hate each other because reasons, I like when he changed to the chameleon. Yeah. I had to get over small Aaron Taylor Johnson for a quick second. But then once he like flipped back into chameleon again, the look of chameleon is like spot on comic accurate and it looked great.
Yeah.
So I was about that.
That was very cool. Like I thought that was such a cool turn, especially like, again, that was probably one of the best parts of the movie was when his brother comes and sits down after he's, singing. And that whole thing of the story was a great addition. Like, that's not one of those dumb things that they just like shoehorned in there. The fact that his brother was amazing at changing his voice. Mm-hmm. And you're like, from the beginning, you're like, oh, he's a chameleon. Like, if you didn't catch it, you didn't catch it, but you knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And then at the end, when he's like, when the guy tells him about the doctor that made him powerful, like, I love that for that character. Like, I fucking hate Heshinger. I do. He's got a punchable face. I hated him in
want to punch that face.
Gladiator. Wanted to beat his ass in that one too.
Yep.
But this was a great change for him. It was I thought that, again, the character arc was cool because he's like, I don't want to fucking run away from the bullets. I want to run towards them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think we've talked this thing to death. Aaron, let's go ahead and do our rating here. Out of 5 David Weiners, what are you going to give Kraven the Hunter? And the end of the Sony Spider-Man universe, the SSU.
2.5.
Okay. All right. See, here's the thing is that I didn't love it like you did. I don't say you want. You didn't love it. You really liked it. You said,
yeah.
I didn't really like it. I'd say like I thought it was entertaining. Yeah. I found like the good in it. I didn't like it, but like I thought it was okay. I didn't hate it, which is I think a win overall. And for those reasons, Sharks, I'm gonna give it a 2.5 as well. I think 2.5 is pretty. I wouldn't recommend this to anybody, but if you're gonna watch it, I'd be like, if you were to come to me and be like, should I watch Kraven the Hunter? I'd be like, no, but like, maybe, I don't know. Like mileage may vary.
I would say if you have nothing to do and you want to go see a movie,
If you're cleaning the house,
if you got nothing to do and you want to go see a movie and this is in theaters and there's nothing else you want to see, go see this.
if you're browsing Netflix and you've already watched Ocean's 11 and Superbad and the latest season of Stranger Things
And Love is Blind.
and Love is Blind and Squid Games and what else, Aaron?
Backdoor Hussies number 4.
Backdoor Hussies. Drunken Sluts number 11. Yeah. Then I guess turn on Kraven the Hunter.
Big
So-
Booty Black Babes number 8.
On that note, let's go ahead and get into my favorite segment and all the big booty black babes' favorite segment on the show, Aaron's Arcade.
It's time for Aaron's Arcade.
Welcome to Aaron's Arcade, where I get to talk about my stuff. Okay, so
Things and stuff.
thanks to what may be, I'm not going to hint at anything, but thanks to an upcoming opportunity, I was able to read this, The Last Mermaid, which this is book number 1. I was able to read it in its entirety. This is volume 1 of a really, really cool story that I started reading back months ago. And I'm going to give you the synopsis real quick for The Last Mermaid. Book number 1. A solitary mermaid wanders an endless, desolate wasteland on a quest that defies all reason. To continue her journey, she must endure the vast waterless expanses, evade bands of ruthless cybernetic cannibals, apparently I'm going through puberty again, and survive deadly mutant creatures. What drives her to take such perilous risks, and who is the mysterious cloaked figure observing her from the shadows? So this is, I wrote that myself, because I really enjoyed it, and I don't want to give too much away in this summary, but this is a really cool, not only looking book, because when you buy it physically, it's like a smaller, like square, like 6x6 book.
It's almost like miniature prestige.
Yeah, you don't get the same comic book feel. It feels very much like a cool storybook, and the story inside is very cool. You've got everything from, again, cybernetic mutants. You've got just creatures like sea creatures. You got mermaids. You've got just a little axolotl that's a pet. You got it's such a cool story that I've never really seen done before. So I just had a great time when I picked it up, and I could not stop reading it once I read through the entire book 1. So this is actually Eisner Harvey and Ignatz award-winning creator Derek Kirk Kim.
Yeah.
He returns with his first graphic novel in a decade, launching an epic adventure, a truly unique, I use this, fish out of water tale that will redefine the post-apocalyptic genre. Because all this takes place in what looks to be like a decimated Earth. Again, I don't know if this is a mutant human as a mermaid. I don't know if this is like just, we don't know too much of the story yet, but it's very fun. It's very fascinating, and I highly recommend it. And with that, let's get into my favorite segment of the show, Chris's Corner.
It's time for Chris's Corner.
Alrighty, this week, Aaron, we're not talking about a movie. We're not talking about a comic.
What?
We're not talking about something else. I'm talking about a book. I'm talking about a normal prose novel, Aaron.
You can read.
I just learned.
Who taught you that?
I learned while
Where'd you get that from?
Who told you this?
Who gave you this?
Who learned you this?
I learned it from you.
I learned it watching you, Dad. This is How You Lose the Time War, Aaron, written by Max Gladstone and Amal El Mator. I hope I'm saying that correctly. But this book, Aaron, the way I described this the other day, I think is perfect how I feel about it, which is that when I read this book, I feel like I'm talking to the smartest person at a party. And I say that in a way that, like, while reading it, it's basically about these two characters. You have Red and you have Blue. And no, we're not talking about the Halo series, but think similar things, because these are two time traveling mercenaries that are basically running through time, and they're leaving notes to each other at these moments in history where they're affecting all of time and space. And these are like Back to the Future time travel rules, where like if you do one thing in the past, it changes the future in multiple different ways. You step on a blade of grass and we have tails in 200 years, something like that, So it's really interesting. It's really beautiful. And I just love the relationship between these two people who are at first adversaries, and then you can tell throughout their notes to each other throughout these different, and this book is like 200 pages, by the way. It's a really quick read. It's really easy to read. The chapters are like, I would say less than 200 words most of the time. It's really beautiful. And I'll give you a synopsis here. I don't want to spoil too much, but just hopefully that sets you up enough. Among the ashes of a dying world, an agent of the commandment finds a letter. It reads, "Burn before reading." Thus begins an unlikely correspondence between two rival agents hell-bent on securing the best possible future for their warring factions. Now what begins as a taunt, a battlefield boast, grows into something more, something epic, something romantic, something that could change the past and the future. So, highest recommend from me, everybody. If you even have like Aaron just said a GIF in the transcript of you lose. Do it, Aaron.
You lose. Sorry.
I'm sitting here trying to talk about time traveling love, and he's like, "You lose. I want my bird." Everybody. Anyway, that'll do it for Chris's Corner. Again, go check out both The Last Mermaid and This Is How You Lose the Time War. So, and that'll do it for episode 177, Aaron. We've done it once again. Next week, we are doing our last movie review of the year, and I'm hoping it's better than the movie we just watched. I think it will be. We've covered the first two ones on the show. We've covered Sonic the Hedgehog 1, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and now we got to round it out with the third installment with Sonic the Hedgehog 3.
I actually want to read this book that you're talking about. It sounds awesome.
Do it. Do it.
And I'm excited for Sonic because obviously Keanu Reeves is amazing.
Yes. Yeah. We have now Jim Carrey, Keanu Reeves, Idris Elba. Am I saying that right? Idris Elba. Jesus.
Ben Schwartz.
And then Ben Schwartz. And then the person who voices Tails, which we still don't know. But that's a great cast, right?
Yes.
And then also the guy that was in X-Men. I'm forgetting his name, but he's in these movies as well. So anyway, we'll watch that next week and we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
So Aaron,
yeah.
What?
I want my blood.
Okay, take us out of here.
Subscribe to our podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Audible, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. That's where we are. Thank you to our patrons, Alex, Alice, Aaron, Botter, Chris S, Chris Y, Chrissy, David, Elliott, George, Gianni, Greg, Haley, Ham 6, Jake, Jeremy, Kyle, Losi, Mac, Miles, Mike, Olivia, Ryan, Robert, Travis, Zach, Brad, and Lisa. If you want to support the show without spending any money, a follow on your preferred podcasting platform and a 5-star rating and or review on an Apple Podcast, Spotify helps the show a shit ton. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. TikTok?
That's your other
TikTok?
app. That's your
that's my other app. Oops, sorry. TikTok, Blue Sky, and Threads at Oblivion Bar Pod. Why don't you pre-record this? Brand new official merch for the show is on our website, oblivionbarpodcast.com. I'm so excited. I have my new shirt's on the way. Thank you, KXD Studios, for all of our Oblivion Bar art. He's at the KXD Graphics on Instagram. Thank you, Dream Kid, for all of our musical themes. Thank you, DJ Skyvac, for our grid theme. And last but not least, do not forget to tip your bartenders 20% or more. There's no excuse. Just tell them if they suck, but still tip them.
Yeah, be like, this was terrible service. Here's 25%. You mother. Anyway, Aaron, we should probably say here at the very end of the show, next week is our second to last show of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Second to last show of the year. And then it's the Last Call Awards, which is our final show of the year. It's exciting times. Glad we could end it with Kraven the Hunter and Sonic 3. What a year 2024 has been.
Oh, man.
All right, everybody, that'll do it. We will see you next week for episode 178.